Okay, Dominic Scanatini. We'd like to start this day off from a traditional elder of the Salish tribes, Mr. Tony Inkshola. Please do us the honor of a Salish prayer.
Thank you all. That's quick. Good morning. Before I say prayer, I just want to say thank you for inviting me for part of your morning this morning. In one hand, we live in a large, big world, and on the other hand, we live in a very small world. Language has brought us together. Language is who we are as people. Gifts that were given to us thousands of years ago is what brought us here today. And today we thank our Creator for those many gifts that He has given us. There's many gifts that He has given us to form our lives, to show us, to be who we are as nations throughout this country, as families, as leaders. We ask our Creator to look upon us this morning, to continue to give us the strength and the guidance for our future generations, for our children and our grandchildren, so that we may survive, so we may remain here as Native people, native to this land, native to this country. We ask our Creator to look upon our elders who have given us the strength and the guidance and the wisdom to bring us to where we're at today. We ask our Creator to look upon our children who have given us hope for our future, given us the light so that we may follow as they learn, as we pass on what we know to them. And as we pray this morning, in your own way, in your own heart, think about our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors, and all those that went before us, all those who are responsible for us being here today. We're very thankful for those people. And today we stand and we're in a building that sits on the very footprints of my ancestors who used to live and used to dig bitterroot in this area. Even though they're gone, their spirits are still here. Their footprints are still here. They continue to give us the guidance. And we ask our elders, Creator, to continue to support us in our endeavors and what we do. So we couldn't certain fears constrain yet for the year for guest good. Yes, and conmate as may we talk look at usual. Come at me, come cast and custom cast for us look at what emotion. Look at hot, look at sick. But tell keep off hot look at which talk look at good. Come at me, come cast custom look at sick. Cast conams look goodness look at which emotion. Come at and conmate that what look at the Kes twihui kes commission for kes unwell to see Jamaican commission commission kes question taka question kan Shake your keks to chariot square Shake your keks constant for the sea for kes stadio for the stadio Come to me, come to Esme, we talk to school. Esme, come to come as das Jahr ist in Bochot Rest, as the Lucy and Studio. Come as got tax, look as secret to tell you. What share you as quite me? What share you as changing, including coding? Share you to George Hour, as square school. Sound and good community, good language. And that does, I would like to have Chaney and we need some help to go ahead and sing. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our introductions from Dean Comer. He's the Dean of College of Humanities and Sciences, which is in charge of this department in American Studies. He's fresh back from China, so he said he apologized in advance if he starts speaking in Chinese. Mr. Dean Comer.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here on an early morning. It's quite early for me. In fact, it's the middle of the night for me. But when Kevin mentioned that this was happening, Kevin KickingWoman, I was very eager to make sure I got here. University is a big place sometimes. It's 13,000 students. The college is a big place. It's 5,000 students. But when it gets down to it, what Tony Ankashola just said, it's a big world, but on some levels, it's a small world. And that's the way we look at it here. That it doesn't matter if we have connections to China or Europe. What really matters most is that we have connections to Montana and to our tribal folks in North America. So I wanted to let you know there's a lot of things going on here. And you can step back from this a little bit and say we have this lovely building on this campus. And when this was built, I know many people said, well, that's a lovely building, but what will you do with it? And that's the important question. We have to do something meaningful with this building. So we made it the home of Native American Studies. It has facilities in it to take care of social needs of Native students. Last year, we dedicated the Eloise Cavell Institute in the lower level of the building. And the Cavell Institute is meant to be a site that will bring people from Native communities here frequently to discuss issues and to deal with matters that are important to Native communities. We want this to be a showplace for our Native students and a place that is like a home away from home. Coming to Missoula for school can be a very daunting experience for any student, but especially so for Native students. And so the extent to which we're successful here, I think, will be judged by the extent to which Native students wish to come here and be successful. In our efforts to do that more and more, we know we have to work through Native channels as much as we can. So one of the things we've done recently is Kevin KickingWoman has joined the staff of the college as an advisor and to help us with recruiting in Native communities. And the goal there is just to make sure that we reach out to all the tribal colleges in Montana and even a bit beyond to make sure that if students are interested in education, past the second year and they've worked in tribal college, that they will feel welcome to come here and supported in what they want to do. The things we offer all students are the chance to get training in anything which might allow them to both have a good job, but also to have a values-oriented approach to going back to their home communities to make a difference in those communities. Because I know from talking to Native students, that's the most important thing. It's not about money, it's about connecting to your community. The things that we teach in the college for all students, especially, we're very interested in language preservation. You talk to people around the world, that's important to them. It's no less important here in Montana, and we appreciate that. So language is very important because it's intimately connected to culture, as you all are aware, I know. And language study, culture study, and religious studies are three things that happen in this college and nowhere else on the campus. So we're very proud of that, and we want to continue that trend. We want to make sure that those studies are intimately connected to the Native issues that are so tied to this place historically. That's our historical obligation, is to make sure we're connected to that. So as you have discussions and interactions today, I hope you will, in your own mind, keep these things to the forefront in a sense of what can you tell us as a college to make sure we're doing work that is relevant to your communities. And any of that information, Kevin will be here today. I'll certainly want to know about that feedback so that we can understand how to work better and better with the Native communities in this area. So I want to thank you for coming out this morning. I wish you a peaceful and a satisfying day, and I look forward to finding out about the exciting discussions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Ms. Coleman. Our next presenter will be presenting alongside a couple other people from the Salish and Pend Oreille Culture Committee. I'd like to introduce Chaney Bell, Tony Inshola, and Shirley Trehan. Please come up and for our first presentation. Easier.
Okay, you're good. There you go.
Has gehad naar gest squept Pessia. She went with get wasket. Dan with squeak which she had met studio to discuss what chamushin to the ad as lamti with chamushin and good lemis with which then with Essia which to couldn't suit into chamushin to get people Nes lamti could shape. Good morning. My name is Chaney Bell. I work with the Salish Pondere Culture Committee as the Salish Language Coordinator. We're going to give a little presentation, the history of kind of our people, what we've done over the years for language revitalization and preservation, all the different efforts, and kind of talk about what we're doing today. We're going to start with Tony Ikashola. He's the director of the Salish Pondere Culture Committee, and he's going to give us a brief history of why they started and why we are where we are today. Cool.
Thank you, everybody. Just, I know we only have an hour, so I gotta try to speed read here through everything we got here. We always get put in a situation where we gotta tell our history, thousands of years of history, information, or now. We're getting good at it. Lemduk again, thank you all for being here. Again, I was very fortunate to be part of a organization, a beginning, I guess, of a group of people to kind of revitalize, kind of bring back things that our elders thought we were lost and were worried as they seen the changes are happening around our land, around our country and our communities, that they were worried that a lot of our language, a lot of our history was going to be lost, because the dominant society was taking over a lot of things, and a lot of our children were starting to learn and go towards that way, and forgetting about who they were, where they come from. And so the elders at that time had a concern, and we were lucky enough for the leaders at that time to recognize and support the concerns of our elders. And they formed a small group of people, what they call a culture committee at that time. And nobody knew what a culture committee was and what it was supposed to be. But we were fortunate enough to start with, this is only part of the elders that you see that we started with. That we had at one time over 20 elders, 20 fluent speakers, 20 elders that were very knowledgeable in our history and our language. We were working with them. Even though I was very fortunate to be born and raised by traditional grandparents, in the past 40 years that I've worked with elders, every day I learn something. Every day they give me something more to bring forward to the next generation. So a lot of our elders that are gone And now we're down to maybe 12, 10 to 12 active, what I call active elders. And they're getting very old. And so the next generation of elders are not as knowledgeable as the ones that I started with. And so we're pressed for time to make sure that our elders today are learning and grasping the importance of our language and our culture. There are many things that the elders gave us and told us to bring forward and to protect, to preserve for future generations. They've had experiences in the past by the dominant society where they came in and took their information, and out of the goodness of their heart, they thought that their information was going to be shared and in a good way. But as they shared their stories, shared their knowledge, the next thing they knew, these these scholars that were non-members were starting to developing and selling books on the information that they shared. And that was very, very sad for them. So right away, they started being reserved. And the worry that they had at that time, so we need to get our information by us, by our own people. So the Culture Committee was then formed at that time. Our first 3 years of our Culture Committee, the director was Johnny Arlee. I'm sure many of you know him. He was the director for the first 3 years. He's the one that hired me 4 months into the program, and I've been there ever since. Johnny has left and is working with our relatives, the lower Kalispels. He is bringing more help down in that direction. So he's helping with the language with lower Kalispels. And for the next 17, 18 years, we had Clarence Woodcock. This is Johnny Arlee here. Clarence Woodcock later came aboard and became the director. And for the past 20 years, I've been the director for Woodcock. Clarence retired in 1995, and shortly after there, he passed away. And I've been director ever since. But it's an honor and a privilege to be working with people like this who have that language. They stress the importance of the language is who we are. You can change anything you want, but you can't change your language. Your language gives you the right to say who you are. It gives you the right to establish your existence here. No matter where you go, you hear a language, you know what person belongs there. We were all honored and privileged to be given our own languages. And through our languages, our culture, our ceremonies, everything is tied to it. Without our language, we are weak. The elders have always stressed the importance of our language. But over the years, we have worked hard to try to carry out their wishes. And we've gathered stories. Hopefully someday we'll have that history book that they want, told by them, by our own people. That history book, so far we have plans for, is going to be a 4-volume history. As the elders said, that from the time they know, from the beginning of time as they know it from our people. So from the beginning of time, there's going to be one section, be 1 volume of book, and then there's going to be 4 volumes for different time periods up until the present. And we have hundreds of hours of audio information that were shared and given to us by those elders. And hopefully that we continue to get younger people as some of us reach a level where we're not as speedy as we used to be. And so we pass it on to the younger ones, like this guy that was late this morning. He needs to work on speed, but that is our dream and our plans that the elders have given us, and we're going to work on it. And someday it'll be there. And so we do a lot of different activities that you see, as you see here, the different things that we have done over the years and we continue to do. It's an ongoing, it's a never ending. Right now we're pressed for time because our elders, our knowledgeable elders are disappearing, are leaving us. And we have to try to hurry to get as much information as we can so that we have that information for our future generations. And we really worked hard. And today, these are one of the, even in this picture, our current elders that we had, we've already lost this one and this one. We've already lost them at time, in a short period of time. So we're just getting down to a point that we're worried. Our oldest one now we have is Felicity. She's 93. She just turned, or she's going to turn 93 this month. And our youngest elder would be you at 71. And she's going to be up there. We can't stop time. That's the only bad thing about it. But we're working. We're working against time. We're working hard to reestablish and hang on to a lot of things. I gotta hurry here before I take up too much time. But language, again, I said, is something that establishes who we are. That's who we are. That is our strength as Native people. No matter where we go, what we do, it's always our language that gives us that strength and the power to establish our existence. Every day is a challenge for us. Every day we have to fight and prove that we belong here, that we exist, that this is our land. This is where our ancestors grew. Every day we have to prove to people that we exist. I can't understand it when we're native to this place. Why do we have to prove it? But we do. And we have to teach our young people how to fight, how to preserve, how to protect the future generations. And so, again, I don't want to take too much time. I will say, thank you for allowing me to be a little bit part of your morning here. When I was in high school, it's hard to believe I was very shy. I always sat in the back in the class. I never volunteered like some of the non-members that they're always in front next to the teacher. I always sat in the back. They always raised their hand for questions. I always tried to hide. I didn't want to answer. I skipped school when the day we had to give oral reports because I didn't want to get up in front. And now today, people say, that's enough. Lemons, thank you.
I'd like to introduce, this is Shirley Trahan. Like Tony said, as far as our elders committee, she's our youngest on the elders committee. She's a fluent speaker and has worked tirelessly over the years to help our language efforts and culture efforts. And she's going to kind of share some of the things that she's done over the years and some of the things she's doing today and anything else she would like.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today. And I'm the reason Chaney was late this morning. He was assisting me because I'm not familiar with the campus here. The only place I've been is to the field house, and maybe you know why. But I have been working with the Culture Committee for 14 years, full-time, and before that, I did contract work, transcribing the recordings into the Salish language. I learned how to do the International Phonetic Alphabet, and the alphabet represents every sound in our language. And I learned how to do that, and so I got hired on a contract to do some transcriptions for different recordings. And from there, I was hired at the Culture Committee as the Salish language specialist. And that's been a very rewarding experience. When I was born and grew up, I learned both English and Salish at the same time. Everyone in my family, everyone in my neighborhood spoke the Salish language. And so that was a real big plus. I didn't think that as time went on that I would be where I'm at now. But it's been really rewarding, and it's helping my family to be more conscious of who they are. Because they were raised also with my mother, and she lived with us until she passed away, and she was their yaya, and she taught them as much as she could, as much as they were willing to learn. And so they have a pretty good idea of what it means to be Salish Pandre. They don't know the language fully, but they know some of it, and they intend to keep on learning. So I'm very grateful for that. And yes, our languages and our culture does make us unique in this world. It identifies us and tells us and everybody else who we are. And so that's my main goal, is to keep on working as hard as I can to help these young people to learn our language and our culture. And that'll be my only job from now on. And I intend to work hard at it and not to give up. And as far as my work, I still at this time listen to the recordings of those elders from the 70s, one of them which was my mother, and one of them was my aunt. They were sisters. Everything I've learned from them that I can use now. And those recordings that I'm working on have many people speaking the language about different things. How to make this, how to make that, where they went, what they did, and the language. So I can write it all in the Salish Pandre dialects. And these young people now are learning how to read and write that. And we're planning on books. We have some books in the Salish Pandre language. We have some children's books that are going to be put out there pretty soon, real young kids. And I've worked with early childhood services on some language books. So that's pretty much most of my work, is listening to those recordings and transcribing them into Salish. I can't translate them too, but many of them have been translated already, so part of my work's been done already. And it's just a very important thing to have your families and the younger people learn the language so that they won't ever forget who they are. So they'll always know who they are, where they came from, and where they fit into this world. And I think I will stop there and let Chaney take over. Thank you very much for having me here.
Okay. So, you know, a lot of tribes and a lot of people have experienced a real similar thing across North America with colonization, oppression. All of our people have experienced some tough things. And so I never want to discredit what our elders and our ancestors have done and been through to get us to this point. But we still, at this moment, have to evaluate and look at what are we going to do, because on our reservation, we still haven't created a new fluent speaker. All the things we've done, that all those things are important and are going to help us and have helped us. So we don't discredit that, but we still, what are we going to do today? So 12 years ago, we started an immersion school. You know, we heard there was 4 of us, and we heard Daryl Kipp talk. And anybody that's heard Daryl Kipp talk, he'll inspire you. And so the next day we're starting an immersion school. We didn't go ask anybody. We didn't, plan anything. We just went to the elders, said, hey, we want to start an immersion school. They said, cool. We went to tribal council, told them we want to start an immersion school. Here's some money. We had some money. We had a building. We had some elders show up. We had 3 kids. And then it was pretty awesome. Amazing stuff happened. Then you start to realize all the things Daryl didn't tell you would happen. But it was important to start then, because we could have waited and planned and got things ready, and we'd still be planning. And it'd be today, and we wouldn't have no immersion school. And those kids that have been through it have learned amazing things. And it's going to help them in their future. But I always tell people, there has to be somebody in the community that says, hey, good job, but you need to do more. You need to push yourself. And in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, we haven't reached where we need to reach yet. So to evaluate that, what's the issue? And so we sat back and we talked about it and we visited. And part of the issue is we have these elders and these little kids, and we put all the weight on the shoulders of those elders to do everything. And we have some people the teachers in between the young people helping, keep things going, but they don't know the language. And you realize that they need to know it, because that's where your learning language happens, is in those transitions and those little moments with children is where they pick up the language. And so we realized the school is good, but it needs work. And we changed our focus from just the school to creating young adult fluent speakers. How part of this transition in my head happened was a guy by the name of Chris Park, and he's a non-Indian guy, taught Spanish, married an Indian woman from Colville Reservation. He really helped us get to thinking, and he showed me this scale by Joshua Fishman. He's a renowned linguist, wrote a few different books, and in one of his books called Reversing Language Shift, he talks about you got to find out where is your language on this scale. Once you figure out where you are, then he kind of gives you some ideas about what you need to do. So we're at a very scary point. We're at either 8 or 7, maybe 6. Most languages are in those 3 areas. There's not very many languages that are in 5. So we figured that out, and then he kind of gives you some ideas. He tells you, don't waste your time on little things that seem big, but they're like, say you create signs, road signs, and I hate to say that because our elders have put a lot of time. We have some cool road signs if you've been on our reservation, awesome. It looks cool, gives a good sense of identity where we are, but we still don't have fluent speakers. So you got to make some hard decisions. You got to say some hard things in your community and say, look, where does our time, our energy, our money need to go? It needs to go into creating fluent speakers, because that's what this is all about, is communicating in our language with each other, with the creator, with yourself, however, but it's about our language and communication. And so all those things are important, but we only have so much time, we only have so much money, so much resources. So we found out where we are, what we need to do. He says, where we are with our group, he talks about how to find some young people and get them fluent. Just a small group, 1, 2, let that grow a little bit. Then it grows, and make them strong. Don't spread yourself thin. Then out of that group, start an immersion school with their kids. Have them teach it in their homes, teach it at the school. Well, with Nkusum, Daryl Pitts had just started. We started a school, but we kind of skipped. We started it, but we weren't fluent as young people. So we struggled, but we're here. We know where we are right now. We've evaluated our situation. Now the other thing is, this is my opinion. These are things that I believe, and there's a lot of things out there that can get you to where you need to be. I don't have the magic answer. We're still struggling. But what we believe is you need to have a plan to get people to become fluent. Whatever that plan is, stick with it and push it hard. One of the plans we're working with right now, the guy, his name's Chris Parkin, he developed a curriculum. I don't know if you can read that. He says you need quality language materials, elder and student immersion, and shutting off English. And I added repetition and review. So the quality language materials right here, it's a curriculum that's been developed, given to us for free. Comes with books, CDs, online programs, web programs, but also a methodology on how to teach and get this language to your students. And this method brings all these methods that you've heard together: TPR, TPRS, direct acquisition, a lot of different teaching methods. And not saying one's better than the other. Let's use everything into this. So we've created where we are with our language. We're right here. We've got an A&A grant. We put our first group through it. We struggled, made it through the second book. Year 2, we started over with some new students. The students that went through it turned around and taught the first book and second book. We made it here and at the beginning here. The third year, we made it through this. So over time, we're getting better and we're seeing huge results. And we're putting all the people that work at Nkusum, our language school, through this program so that their language level goes up. So we kind of have a plan. So on our reservation, this is some of the things that are happening. We have adult language programs going. We have 3 students with us right now that are actively in the program teaching it, went through it, turned around, now teaching it, and a student that just finished the first book. We have classes at SKC, Head Start, public schools, those things that are going on, and we support them. We try not to get caught up in it. I mean, the group of us that are focused on fluent speakers, we support everything that's going on and give praise to anybody that's doing this work because it's hard work, but it doesn't create fluent speakers. But it still gives a sense of identity, and it's important for anybody that's learning. So we don't discredit nothing. We have our language school, which is amazing. We advertise that as total immersion. It's not quite total immersion, but you will hear a lot of language, and these kids are learning. And the cultural aspect is awesome. So they're getting some cool things, but we push them. We push our teachers, we push the board, the administration to not settle. And to me, the most important part, all these things are fine. But to me, the language is going to come back in our homes. That's where it's going to come back. When we talk to our children, that's the goal we're looking for. And I have 5 kids, and every kid I've tried to speak to them. I'm learning. My first kid, I didn't know very much, and I struggled. I couldn't keep it totally immersion. I was been told by a lot of people, Chris Park and the guy that created the curriculum, just talk. What are you doing? Talk to your kids in the language. You're supposed to be a language advocate. Show that you believe this. So I've tried every kid, and I struggle. This is my baby, Action. He's 2 years old, and I haven't spoke to him in English. Now, my language is not very, very good. I mean, I've come a long ways, but I'm missing out on things with him because I've chose this path and because my language ain't that good. So he gets language in English from his mother, and he speaks English already. You see real quickly how dominant English is in our society. I speak nothing but Salish, but he just wants to constantly go into English nonstop. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to give him something that I never had, and he understands our language so much more. It took me when I was 22 years old. He's 2. So how much time do I got? Okay. So that's kind of our journey where we are at. And I wanted to ask, for sure, Steve, this is Steve Arca. When we first did our first grant, I was struggling. I didn't know the language, but I tried to do our best. And he was one of our first students to go through this program. So they have a class where someone at my level teaches it. They have to take tests, they have to study, they have to get on the computer programs, and you force them to do this. It's not their choice. He got paid to go through a language class. Controversial. A lot of people in our communities didn't like it, but we did it. That was his job, 8 hours a day, hopefully more. They went home and studied. And then, but you also have to have them around fluent speakers. That's a key to it. But you also have to push them to start talking. So we create safe environments, sometimes with just beginners, where it's just the students talking to each other on a low level. Sometimes we bring in a little bit higher people or elders that understand how that needs to work. And sometimes it's just highly fluent speakers that just talk, tell stories, or whatever it is. So he was one of the first ones to go through it. Turned around, now this year he's teaching 2 students to go through this program. So this is Steve Arca.
Yeah, my name is Steve Arca. Grew up in Ronan. My family's last name is Small Salmons and Beaverheads. Tony, who just spoke this morning, is one of I guess in any way, it was my uncle. I mean, he's always my uncle, but in another way, it'd be like, I don't know, second cousin, first cousin, or something like that. I don't know how that works. But anyway, when I grew up, I'm 51. When I grew up, I was lucky enough to be around the language. And Shirley, Tony, and all our elders like this, they all spoke. Everybody spoke. These pictures of the elders they had, all those older people, they spoke the language. I heard it, but I didn't pick it up. And I don't know why, but it just didn't. So later when you grow up, and there's so many like me, and there's others who didn't have that opportunity, so we, as adults learning the language, yesterday it was mentioned that shame, comes across, and that really, I think that it's a pretty tough word, because like somebody also saying, any of those kind of things, you just want to deal with those kind of things. You want to meet it for what it is. You want to take it outside and deal with it like that, So you want to fight those things in that way. And that's not the healthy way to do it. Sometimes that's the healthy way to do things. but that's not that's not in that situation. And learning language is, I think we probably, all of us who don't know our languages and are learning our languages, no matter what language you're learning, we could all say that's probably the toughest language to learn, because it's not that easy, and there's so much to do. Basically all we're doing is just taking we have the Indian word on one side and we have the English word on the other side. So we're just taking our language and translating it to the English. And that's how you start, section, light, you take all these different things and you're just memorizing. So all you're doing is memorizing, but when you hear a speaker speak and you hear him talking, after you build up a vocab and you understand so much, then pretty soon you're seeing it work, like, whoa, you can see how it flows, it's like, language is a beautiful thing, especially when people speak our language, and our language, when you hear them talk, you can just feel it, like you're right there, they always say it when they're talking, it's like you join them, you're right there. If they're way up in the mountains doing something, or talking about a long time, whether they're hunting or whatever, it's like you're right there with them. You're pointing at this mountain over here, you're right there with them. It's so descriptive. Our languages are so descriptive. And people they're great storytellers, I think that's probably something we might kind of lose some of that, if we don't, because that race against time, we have to keep those people there to do it. We need to video record them so we can see, because we use our hands, so we can't talk without using our hands. Even us that don't know the language, we didn't grow up to even when you have all that and you get to practicing, you're talking Indian, we're all sitting here, you need a safe environment for us to do it. So we need to build that camaraderie within us in the classroom who's all learning. We need to be able to trust it. And for those things to happen, sometimes we talk about that shame. Why we don't know that language? Why is my family don't have the language? How come your family has it? How come your family has it, but mine don't? All those kind of things need to come out and we get to hear each other's stories. And we walk through that and that pain and that hurt, it needs to be said, it needs to be done in that classroom or somehow, some way for each individual to go over that, and then you can start learning. And the next thing, well, first of all, you just got to tell yourself you don't know nothing and just start learning, because otherwise that's not how I heard, that's not what I learned, that's not what my family says, and it's there. Those things are there. They will always be there, I think. And so when you pick up, you start learning the languages, and for myself, now that